Welcome back to BK Nothing But Nets podcast. I'm joined again with my boy John. It's just me and John. No Dylan. Dylan's out again today. So it's a two-man show. Me and Johnny are going to play the two-man game.
Thank you.
Good to have you here, Johnny. Where can everybody find you and what do you got going on?
Gary, always fun to talk great basketball with you. Today, I want to talk fun basketball. You can follow me on Twitter at OS91413John. We got 20 games left. It's going to be a mad dash. Let's hopefully the odds fall in Brooklyn's favor because it's been a crazy ass season. So let's get into it, man. A lot of good stuff to talk about today.
All right. Yesterday was good. We've lost 6 in a row. Cam Thomas played well, and the Nets lost. They kept it competitive for all 48 minutes. That's really all I can ask for. Is give me entertaining basketball. Cam Thomas plays well, and the Nets lose. Is that a home run yesterday, John? Is that a home run? Is that as good as it gets for the Nets?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty on par for the course. The Nets have had these little outbursts this season where they come out to big leads and then it just the team kind of wakes up and gets back into it. So it's kind of on par for the course. I think if you coach Jordy, you're probably disappointed that the defensive identity that he worked hard for in February is kind of fallen off the hill. But at the end of the day, we're thinking about business now, protecting that lottery pick. That's what matters right now. And as fun as this team has been, clearly about 3/4 of this roster probably shouldn't be here next year. So there's a lot of roster construction that needs to be ironed out this summer. So as long as we get through this and protect that lottery pick, I think that's all that matters. I mean, Jordy had a fun season, won more than 20 games, which nobody thought he could do. So there were a lot of positives to take out of this season, but ultimately the biggest positive will be what that lottery pick turns into. So losses like this should be exactly on par for the course. And quite honestly, Johnson, Claxton, and Delos should probably be rested soon or their minutes managed so other guys like Derek Whiteheads and Maxwell Lewis's can actually get some burn, and we could see if they could offer us something as far as maybe being a potential option next year. I kind of hope that can happen soon because right now we should be in player evaluation mode and see what these young guys can do more than the vets right now. So hopefully that could get ironed out as the season starts to end.
Well, we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But I did want to do this because I promise I do it every game. And even when it doesn't look like the way I want it to look, I'm still going to do it. All right. We'll get into Nick Claxton. John, did Nick Claxton play well last night? Because he kind of did. Can we be fair?
I mean, after he suffered probably the biggest career low you could suffer, losing to Bismack Biyombo, he definitely had to respond. So, yeah, I mean, 10 assists last night. Wow, that is very impressive. I have to give it to Claxton. That's very impressive. But at the end of the day, how long is it going to be till we see that again? Because that's like the Sabonis role that Jordy was preaching months ago. And unfortunately, this feels like 5 months too late. So as good as to see Claxton finally hit what we've been asking for, it's very few in between. Like every time Claxton
it's one game.
we have to wait like what 10, 20, maybe a month. That's the problem with Claxton. His season's been very inconsistent. Whereas with a guy like Thomas, he's been mostly consistent because he fits Jordy's system more. So I just kind of wish Claxton would be more consistent, but it feels like we have to wait a while till we see this again. But yeah, it was very impressive to see Claxton give you 10 assists, but you're kind of hoping this would be the norm for him this season. Unfortunately, that just hasn't been the case.
I want to get into this. Nick Claxton, I do this every day, even when it turns out positive for Nick Claxton. It's not, that's what I'm saying. It's not hating on Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton played well, so I'll give him his flowers. He was plus 18. 8 points, 10 assists. 10 assists. I had to look at that 3 times. He had 10 assists last night. 9 rebounds. If you took the over on 9.5 assists for Nick Claxton, what odds did you get on that? That's wild.
Definitely insane.
And then Day'Ron Sharpe was a minus 20. So that's the second time since I've been doing this that Claxton's had the better plus minus than Day'Ron Sharpe. But he played well. You know who else played well last night, John? Cam Thomas. Killer Cam.
Chef Killer Cam.
He played just 26 minutes. And in those 26 minutes, he had 23 points and 7 assists. John, if you drag that out over 36 minutes, he's averaging over 30 and 10. I mean, like, I know it's just 23 and 7, but he did that in 26 minutes. He took a lot of shots, but he didn't put up any horrible shots besides maybe one, right? He took a lot of, grenades, shot clock, game clock expiring, things like that. But I thought Cam Thomas' ability to play the point, to handle, to distribute, to create offense for others is really what's kept the Nets in the game. He scored a bunch of buckets. I think he had 8 field goals. He had 2 threes. So he shot the ball okay. But really, what impressed me was finding offense and creating offense for others. What were your thoughts on Cam Thomas last night?
Yeah, I thought it was a much better start from him. I think he's starting to find a little more rhythm since he's come back from that long, long layoff. So to expect this guy to be what he was beginning of the season would be highly illogical. But I just noticed this whole season there's been a maturity to his game. Like he's not taking all the shots every game because Jordy told him, I don't need you to do that. I need you to focus on being a great teammate, showing the leadership on and off the court, focus on your playmaking, your defense, your rebounding. And obviously a lot of people look at the defense being a huge killer to him right now, but I look right now specifically, what is he doing on the playmaking end? And to have 7 assists after the previous game having 6, he's finally finding that consistency again with his playmaking. And you kind of need that. You need Thomas to not be the guy that needs to take all the shots every game, but distribute, find his shots. And you're seeing a more efficient Cam Thomas. I think that was Jordy's ultimate goal with Cam this year. How can I turn this guy who wants to score the ball every time he has it in his hand into a more efficient type guy? And being able to play make and find your shots, I think it's a great ratio that Thomas is starting to hit. So while the defensive rebounding, I'm still kind of waiting to be more consistent, the points and playmaking aspect is kind of what's, I think, evolving Cam's game. And I just hope this continues. But as far as player evaluation goes with his contract situation, I'm looking more at the playmaking, defense, and rebounding than I am necessarily with the points. Because I know what he can do on the points end. It's just these other elements of his game that you and I criticized a while back that we're seeing be more consistent. So I just hope he continues that aspect. So I think it makes Cam Thomas a more mature player and a more focused player on the court. So this was a good night for him. And I just hope he continues it as the season winds down.
The 3 he hit from the logo to get it within what? Get it within 2 or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was fun. He just came down and launched it from the logo and drained it. Obviously, he's got that D'Lo type ice water in his veins. But like your thoughts when I saw that, everything else that he did today, I'm like, this is legitimately the most underrated scorer, I think, in the history of basketball. There is nowhere on the court, logo to the basket, where he can't score. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, but like how many guys in the NBA today can really do what he does? Score, hit a pull-up 3 from the logo like it's nothing, attack the hoop, get the N1, get the bounce, right? Do all of that. Like, how many guys can really, who aren't hyper athletic, can really do what Cam Thomas does as a complete offensive player?
You're right, and it takes a lot of discipline. It takes knowing yourself and being confident in yourself. I mean, Cam Thomas, the logo shots, we've seen him make a lot of them. The most impressive one I saw was last year against the Cavs when he hit that one with 2 defenders, and it was like a buzzer beater. That was one of the sickest threes I've ever seen. I thought that one was better than the one he hit in the Knicks season when he played the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. We hit that buzzer beater 3. So he's definitely shown he can make those logo shots like nobody's business. But I think for Thomas right now, it's just to be more consistent and be more mature by not trying to take all the shots every game. So I'm glad that he's doing that because I think it's making his shot selection even more lethal on the court because you're just seeing like he can score from anywhere and he's distributing because he doesn't have all the pressure on his shoulders right now. I think that was Cam's problem when he started out because he always felt like I had to be the best scorer on every basis. I didn't really care about who's around me. It's when I'm on the court, I'm going to score no matter what. But now he's realizing I need to use the pieces around me, even if they're not necessarily great. I have to be able to distribute the ball and make sure everybody's playing at a high level with me. And I think that's making Cam's game overall better. He doesn't have to be the best guy on the court every given night. He just needs to be the best team player on every given night because that allows his scoring to go up to that other level. And you're right, there's not many guys that can do it. I mean, Kyrie Irving, you can look at that as maybe a comp with Cam Thomas, but it's very hard. You have to be able to manipulate your body any way you can and to find your shot. So I think Cam is finally figuring out the balance of it. I just hope he stays healthy. I think that's the big problem for Thomas. As good as he's shown us he can be scoring-wise, you really wish he could be healthy for a long stretch of period of time to show you that he can be that lethal scorer for multiple months. So when we get that, I think you'll see Cam Thomas at his best, truly.
And he's still not getting any calls. I mean, I've pointed this out all season. The amount of N1s he should be getting and the amount of times he's fouled at the basket where nothing else. He's not getting that superstar treatment, and he's not a superstar yet. He hasn't played a whole lot of NBA games, to be fair. But the amount of calls that he doesn't get, that, like, let's say Jimmy Butler gets. I'm just giving another name of a guy who gets a lot of N1s. He just doesn't get them. He doesn't get whistles. And this has been a theme all season long. Once he starts getting those whistles, his scoring is going to jump up another 3 points a game from N1s. I mean, he gets hacked, and I get it. He's a big, strong guy. Right? He got a big base. He's strong as hell. He's physical, so they're going to let him play a little bit. But there are so many times he's finishing at the basket, and there's no N1 call. I mean, I understand he's strong as hell, and he's physical, and he gets that bounce. Jalen Brunson does the same thing. Jalen Brunson gets the calls all the time. I'm not dumping on Jalen Brunson, but I'm just saying, like, you see what I'm seeing, right? Like, he just does not get any whistles when he's finishing at the basket.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we live in that era of basketball where you look at the things that always make you go, "Damn, that just shouldn't be allowed." But yeah, you notice certain stars, LeBrons, the Brunsons, they could always get those calls, even the Hardens and Trey Youngs, because they've been around longer. And Cam Thomas, he could eventually get that. But for me, I like the fact that he's not complaining anymore because he had these instances where he would complain a lot and get away from the play. Now it's just like if the ball doesn't go in, you know, get the call, next play, I score the ball. I appreciate that Thomas is not letting the referees psych him out because I think once the referees get in Cam's head, all of his other skill sets tend to kind of like go away and he kind of has some bad games in between. So I'm glad he's not letting that be a focus for him. Listen, you're going to get the calls eventually. Just keep attacking the rim when you can, find your shots, and don't let the fact you don't have the athleticism stop you from going to the rim because he's showing you he has speed sometimes in one-on-one matchups. If a guy can't defend him well, he can buzz right by him and get a layup. I think that Thomas should definitely more into his layup game, and he eventually will get those calls. Yeah, it's just a process he has to go through, and I'm glad that he's not letting the referees psych him out now because he's showing you, I'm going to score the next basket. If you don't give me that call, I'm going to get the points back one way or another, and I like that from Cam Thomas. That's how he's going to keep evolving his game, by just being mature, not letting the referees psych him out at all.
I want to look. I would take the good with the good, the bad with the bad. Since Cam Thomas has come back and D'Lo has played with D'Lo, they look like an actual offense. They don't look like a bunch of G Leaguers. They don't look like a bunch of JV players. They look like a real offense, and they're scoring 120 points a game, like you would hope an NBA team does. So their offense is night and day better, for sure, because you have two NBA players in your backcourt who, even though they're only playing about 25 minutes a game, they're NBA players. You didn't have that before. On the flip side, those guys who hate Cam and hate D'Lo are going to point out the Nets defense looks like trash. Specifically, the San Antonio game, where it was just like wide open shots, easy baskets, one after another. They couldn't defend the pick and roll at all. What are your thoughts right now? The Nets are letting up a lot of points. Their defense doesn't seem to have the same intensity that it did before Cam Thomas and D'Lo came back. Those are my two favorite players, John, but I need to keep it a buck. What are your thoughts on the lack, especially in the San Antonio game? This wasn't as bad. They just Steph made some ridiculous shots. But still, the defense doesn't look as intense as it was. What are your thoughts on the defensive struggles since the two guards came back? Because you know that's what the haters are going to say. You already know.
Right. Listen, it's all about adjustments, right? Jordy clearly wants to see D'Lo and Thomas get run together. Honestly, I just wish it would be Thomas and Killian Hayes if they kept them, as I thought that would have been fine as far as our rebuild goes. But now you have D'Lo and Thomas back. Obviously, Jordy wants to see what they can do together. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to knock them on the defensive end because right now protecting our lottery pick is all that matters right now. It's business right now. We're winding down the season. We're not competing for no playing crap anymore. That's clearly out of our mindset, thankfully. So if the defense is bad, I'm not going to say that's horrible, but offensively, they'll keep you in some games. Like I told you, they can score around 40 points together. So people should look at that as far as like, hey, listen, this is not going to be the backcourt of the future. And honestly, this is a short-term thing with D'Lo and Thomas because I hope if we do draft high in this draft, if we get a point guard like a Dylan Harper with a Cam Thomas, I think that backcourt will be better long-term wise than D'Lo and Thomas, because clearly D'Lo and Thomas together is a defensive nightmare. And honestly, D'Lo, he had a horrible game last night. If you look at the stats, he had a really bad game. And my thing is this, I kind of wish we had a point guard next to Thomas that's younger, a little more athletic at the rim, and could kind of distribute the ball and find his offensive opportunities. I noticed with D'Lo is if he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot of the time, he doesn't score much. And if he has to distribute for a guy like Cam Thomas, he doesn't score much. So I kind of hope that if we do bring D'Lo back, he's a backup. He doesn't really start with Thomas. Because like you said, Gary, that's a defensive nightmare that really can't be solved. No matter how much work you put into Thomas and D'Lo, physically they just don't have the bodies to defend these other type big players. So I just kind of live with it right now because we're clearly winding down the season. But hopefully, if we drafted a really solid point guard next to Thomas, I think that'll be better for our defensive alignment than this is right now. I don't see a D'Lo and Thomas ever improving the defensive errors unless you have solid defensive players around those two guys. So that's definitely something that's going to be worked out this summer for sure. So I wouldn't, rain down on it right now like crazy negative because
They
that's just what it's
haven't
supposed to
played.
be.
They haven't played a lot of minutes together. They played 3 games
Right.
together, and one was a month and a half ago, whatever, right? Like they haven't played much together, so there's not much of a defensive scheme yet. I just want to address that because already the haters are going to say, yeah, the Nets are scoring 120, but now they're letting up 130, and they're not wrong, right? Defensively, especially in the San Antonio game, it was bad. Like those are my 2 favorite guys. They're 2 of my top 10 favorite Nets of all time. But defensively, they're right. It's bad. It's bad. You made it. Let me pull this up. I do want to address this because you said D'Lo played terrible. He seemed uninvolved and uninterested at times, mostly uninvolved. Like he only played 24 minutes, 10 seconds, about half the game. He took 7 shots, and they almost all came in the first half. He's 3 for 7, 1 for 3 from 3. So that's not terrible. But he was just especially in the second half, especially down the stretch, especially when they were giving up the lead, he just seemed like he wasn't involved. Like he was like standing around. If it wasn't my favorite player, I wouldn't have even known that he was on the court, kind of thing. It's like, where's D'Lo today? I'm not. You see what I'm saying? Like he just seemed uninvolved in the offense when he's one of the 2 guys who have an NBA bag on the whole team. Like you know what I'm saying? It's just where's D'Lo?
It just comes back to what I'm saying. I don't see D'Lo as a starter anymore in this league. I think if he wants to stay in the NBA, he has to have that mindset of I can be a backup 6-man at worst, but I could still produce on the court. And his assist pass, I'll say the best thing D'Lo's brought you on this team is his assist pass numbers were pretty good when he came to this team. Like if he can convert that into a 6-man role, I think D'Lo has more value than he does as a starter. Because like I said, when Kenny Axel was praising him, he said D'Lo used to be an alpha on this team. I don't see that alpha anymore because D'Lo physically can't take on too many players unless he has, a little separation.
Well,
And
he's
other than
soft.
that,
He's
defensively,
soft. D'Lo, I
he
love
gets
D'Lo.
cooked on
D'Lo is
defense.
soft. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets cooked on defense. But the thing is, Thomas is a guy who wants the ball in his hands to score a lot of shots. We know Thomas is being more efficient right now. D'Lo's problem is if he doesn't have the ball and scores, he doesn't really do much else on the court. That's why I hope if he's brought back on this team, he's a 6-man, he's not starting anymore. We actually need a legit point guard that can score and distribute the ball, but know how to be a closer. And I think if we have a younger version of that than we have in D'Lo, it's better for us long-term wise. Because D'Lo, he's kind of at that middle tier end of his career as far as being a starter goes. So hopefully we can draft a solid point guard on this draft. I just see D'Lo and Thomas gelling to the point where it can ever be a serious product on the court because D'Lo, he has a lot of deficits if he doesn't have the ball in his hands most of the time. So that's kind of what you saw, an uninvolved D'Lo, because you have a young scorer like Thomas who wants to score the ball. So unless D'Lo can figure out how to find that balance, I think you're going to get more nights like this where D'Lo just looks uninterested and uninvolved.
So, let's address this, right? Because I'm going to get to Cam Thomas, and I've talked about I want to see Cam Thomas run the point.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound so crazy anymore, does it? Right? But let's talk about D'Lo first. Does D'Lo wants to come back? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Does D'Lo have a role on this team this year? And does he have a role on the team beyond this year? Like, let's say a 1-year deal for a vet minimum. Does he have a role on this team? Is there? I mean, I know it's going to depend on who we draft and what we do in the offseason. But could you say, all right, we're going to roll with D'Lo as our backup combo guard. He's going to back up Dylan Harper. And then he's going to back up Cam Thomas. So he's going to be on the court 25 minutes a game in a backup role of those 2 guys. Could he do that role, or is there some other role for him that I'm missing?
I think that would be the only way he would stay is take a back role. Let's say you draft Jeremiah Fears at Harper and they're starting next to Thomas. D'Lo would have to accept a backup role. Maybe that could get his value up because D'Lo's a starter. You just see some nights where he looks good, others where he just looks horrible because he's not always involved because he's just not where he used to be in his career. So, and the only way he would stay on this team is a 6-man role, which shouldn't be bad for him because he can distribute the ball and find opportunities. But him starting, he has to get that out of his mindset. If you come back to this team, it's not going to be a starter unless we don't draft a point guard. Say we miss out on a point guard somehow, then maybe he could start next year on this team. But I wouldn't bring him back after that. I just think you need a younger point guard that can gel more with the offense and can dominate more in the offense. With D'Lo, I think that alpha side of him is long gone because he's shown you nights where he looks locked in, other nights where he just looks cooked. So I think a backup 6-man role would be the only way he could stay on this team next year if he comes back.
He's going to be in a 6-man role, right? Especially, I would assume, whether it's Fears or Harper, and we're going to get into the Tankathon standings in a minute, which are looking better for us after losing 6 in a row. I'd imagine you're drafting a point guard this year. And for most of the season, you're going to want to start that point guard in a season where you're not really trying to compete, where a season that, you're not trying to win a championship. You're looking to grow these guys. I would imagine that point guard that you do draft is going to want to start. So that would mean that D'Lo has to come off the bench. Now, he says he wants to come back next year. So, like, a two-part question, John. Would he be willing to come back to a bad team where he's not going to start? That's A. And B, is there some other team he could, a playoff caliber team he could start for?
Not a lot of options right now for D'Lo. I think we're one of the options because we have the most cap space this summer. So I wasn't surprised when he said I want to stay here. I have the most money. Yeah. I want to stay here because I'm going to get paid for it. That's the only way he would stay. He's not going to stay because he loves Sean Marks. He forgives him for what he did, kicking him to the curb. It's if you're going to pay me, I'll stay.
Kick him to the curb for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Like, as a businessman, I understand, right? Like, if your chick left you for Brad Pitt and Alex Rodriguez, you'd be like, all right, I know I got, like they got KD and Kyrie Irving. I love D'Lo, but it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, shoot, all right. You got to take it.
Yeah, and plus, one way he did destroy his career was he tried to play with those stars, but he was never that same guy because he didn't control the offense on other teams. He had to be a supporting character, and that's been D'Lo's biggest problem is he doesn't know how to support other stars, and his weaknesses get exposed because he's not as confident in himself unless he's the primary guy. But that is long gone and past him being a primary guy on any team. He has to accept a backup role. And the other team that go for cap space this summer is Washington. But would you really want to go to Washington if they pay a little higher than we would for him? Okay, maybe they'll flip you for something. But other than that, it's either us, Wizards, or Shanghai Sharks. His options are that limited. So if he comes back,
I think a lot of teams would roll the dice on him. Nate's in the chat. Nate, if you could get D'Lo for the Knicks on a 1-year vet minimum deal as a depth piece, obviously he's not starting over Brunson. Understood. As a depth piece off the bench on a competitive team, would you have a spot? I think Nate's still in here. Would you roll the dice on D'Lo as a backup guard? I think as a role as a backup, I think teams might be interested on him on a 1-year deal, just like Schroeder always gets a job, right? D'Lo's proven 2 things. He can create offense. Well, he's proven a bunch of things, but the good things he's proven is that he can create an offense for others and he can score. He can do that, right? What he can't do really is score in the playoffs and defend. It's what it is.
Yeah, but that's why I think he should be resting right now. That's my only thing. I feel like if you kept Hayes, you could see what Hayes can do and see if Hayes can maybe have a role in this team. But that's obviously not an option anymore. But now you have D'Lo, and it's kind of like the season's winding down. We know with D'Lo what he gives you, what he can't give you. But is he really a big part of your future as a starter? No. I would let some of these young guys. What about Derek Whitehead? Like, Whitehead is getting no burn right now, and his future's on the line. If you keep D'Lo, what does Whitehead do next year? Does he just ride the bench as a third stringer? Like, you're thinking about that too. If you keep D'Lo another year, Derek Whitehead, who we drafted, who's finally trying to come back and be healthy, he gets asked out. So it's like a cause and effect thing. Keeping D'Lo here, because some of the young guys who want to get run, they won't get run because D'Lo's taking up a roster spot. So you have to ask yourself that too. Is keeping D'Lo on a 1-year contract worth more than these young guys who could be a part of your future long term, but they don't get the burn? I mean, that's a tough question you have to ask yourself, Gary, as well. Is D'Lo worth it for next year? We already know he's a downhill slump as soon as you get to a playoff playing situation.
But he's a guy like if you have injuries, if you lose Jaden Ivey, if you lose Jalen Suggs, if you lose these guys, you can put D'Lo in and he can help you score. He can help your offense. Yeah, in the playoffs, he's been bad in every single role he's had, and I'm a huge D'Lo fan. But we've talked about this. When we got D'Lo, we talked about teams that you could either trade him to or teams that would. If you bought him out, teams he could go to. And Iceman brings this up now. Orlando. Orlando would be a good fit for him, would it not? Again, off the bench. He's not starting. Right? Off the bench. Orlando, a team that struggles to shoot, a team that struggles to score at times, who is very competitive, a team I like a lot. Would he make sense?
Yeah, I think Orlando could make a sense. I mean, Cole Anthony, he's been a very up and down career. He's a little smaller than D'Lo, and he doesn't offer the playmaking D'Lo can offer. So if you replace Cole Anthony with D'Lo, I could see it. But is that a long term thing to help them get better to being a serious playoff team? Probably not. But at the end of the day, if D'Lo wants to stay in the league, I could say the Magic could make sense. But it's a very small market. When I said Shannon Harps, it's like if he doesn't accept a backup role, all those other teams are not going to want him on their team. So it's really in D'Lo's court to evolve his game right now to go from, hey, listen, I used to be a good starter, but my career's on a downslope, and the only way I could stay in this league is if I become a six man. His playmaking is probably the one thing that's saving him right now from being out of this league. And if he could turn that into a six man role, he's definitely got a future. So you could throw the Magic in there or some other team that needs a backup point guard right now. But it's a small market, I would say, right now for him.
Lou suggested we trade D'Lo for Cole Anthony at the deadline. John, two questions. You're the trade guy. Was this discussed? A, because I would make this trade. I mean, I love D'Lo, and I would make this trade. And B, does the money work on that?
I think it. How much is Cole Anthony making? Because D'Lo's making 18 mil. So I
Yeah, I
think
don't know if the
Anthony's
money
making
works on
around a number like that. I think maybe
that.
13,
Is he
14
really?
million.
Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see Cole Anthony contract.
But I could have sworn we
So it's
discussed
3 years, 39. So it's 13 million a year.
13 million. Yeah, so they would have to take back extra money in that deal a
Did
little
they
bit.
have? Does Orlando have 5? I know Orlando's got a little bit of cap space, right?
A little. They don't have a lot. They re-signed
They
a
don't
lot
have
of their
5
young
million.
core, so
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work out. But I did talk a hypothetical about trading D'Lo to them when he was on the trade market a little bit there. I thought the Magic could replace him with Anthony and we guys maybe a second round pick for like the Clippers. We could have done PJ Tucker and Bones Island and some second round picks for D'Lo. They could have used the backup, but his market's just not that strong, and clearly the Nets felt like they weren't going to get much value for him, so they kept him. But that's at the end of the day a big reason why D'Lo needs to convert himself into a six-man role. Other teams not going to want you if you're stubborn and think you're worth a starter's role when defensively you're a huge liability. So I think this summer it'll be very telling if we bring D'Lo back or we don't bring him back where his future lies, because I think it's really in his hands on what he wants to do with it at that point.
The other thing I wanted to get into, we've kind of beaten the D'Lo thing to death. I want to transition back to Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas as a playmaker has vastly improved.
Yes.
So when other people say that you can't develop during the offseason, during the season, you can only develop in the offseason, it's not true. Cam Thomas is developing as a playmaker. It's something I never thought he could do. Right? I remember getting into arguments with Harlem saying he's never going to be a playmaker. And granted, look, he's not John Stockton. He's not Jason Kidd. Got it. His playmaking and creating offense for others and his vision has vastly improved. There's a lot less tunnel vision and there's a lot proclivity to giving up the ball, right? Like he's still looking for his own shot as option 1, 2, and 3. But you guys can push back. Cam Thomas is a better playmaker than Kyrie Irving. Let me put it there. And then let's talk about Cam Thomas's playmaking as in general.
Yeah, listen, it's definitely gotten better. I'm not going to say he's on the level of Kyrie Irving.
As a playmaker, creating offense. This is what drove me insane. I'll let you respond.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie Irving has the worst case of tunnel vision. When he gets into his dribble package, he's putting up the shot. Right? And it's like, get off the ball. Could you imagine if Kyrie Irving played for Greg Popovich? Greg Popovich's like head would explode. You know what I'm saying? Like right. Kyrie is an incredibly gifted player, maybe the most skilled player to ever live. I grant him all that. It's the tunnel vision, bro. It's get off the ball. This is why he has to play the 2 on a good team. Because if he's playing the 1 on a good team, no one else is getting involved in the offense. Cam Thomas is a ball dominant guy. He's showing you right now he can create other offense for others. So I stand on that, and I will die on that hill. Cam Thomas right now is a better playmaker than Kyrie Irving. You also got to look at the system.
You also got to look at the system. Kyrie's been with a lot of stars in his career, and it's always been ISO type systems where less team style systems. You look at Cam Thomas right now. He used to be in that ISO system with KD, Kyrie, and Harden. Now we've really moved away from it. Now it's more of like in Jordy, a team style oriented basketball. And I think that's made Cam's game a whole lot better because now you've seen the playmaking, beginning the season saw the rebounding, and the defense was a little more crisper. He was getting a lot of steals. Really, but Cam Thomas' defensive work this year, he was getting a lot of steals this year. And I hope he gets back to that as he gets more healthier. But you see Thomas now working within a team style system, and his offense is looking better, more efficient, and his playmaking is now taking a big jump. It's because he's not being an ISO guy anymore. He's not just relying on himself. He's trusting his teammates. I think Cam's biggest problem was he felt like he had to be the best guy on every given night, or else everybody will look at him like, yo, this guy doesn't defend, he doesn't play make, he doesn't rebound. Now he's kind of like throwing all that all to the side by making himself an unselfish teammate. And I think that goes with maturity. I'm proud that Thomas is being more mature. He's said a lot of crazy statements in his life. He said, nobody could guard me. I'm the best in the NBA, stuff like that. And you know what? He could brag about that. He's a great scorer, but it's what you do on the court on night-to-night basis that makes you a good basketball player. And him being a playmaker is evolving his game. So I give Thomas props for working within Jordy's system. If you want to have a career, if you want to have a contract next year, you have to show you're willing to work in his system. And I think Cam has some upside now with the playmaking. So I hope he continues this because it's important as he evolves his game. Because obviously everybody's going to look at the defensive flaws, but if the playmaking, rebounding, and offense are all in sync, that kind of negates it a little bit. And I think that's better for Cam Thomas longevity-wise in his young career right now.
So I want to move back to Cam Thomas. We're saying this Cam Thomas thing. I've said a lot. I want to see Cam Thomas run the point. You know, a lot of people disagree with me, and I said it's an experimental season. If it looks like dog crap, just don't do it anymore, right? But like I wanted to see it. There's the idea of Cam Thomas running the point for prolonged periods. I don't mean for 2 minutes down the end of the game. I mean for prolonged periods of time that he's your point guard. Is it still crazy, or is it something that we should explore?
I think it's something you could definitely explore, but I also realize why Jordy put him at the 2. Because if Cam Thomas had all his responsibilities at the 1, he would be gassed out on defense. He's having to play make for everybody else and use extra energy. As a scoring guard, it's much easier for him now to play make because he just has to pass out the ball, find somebody in the corner, doesn't have to do a lot of that other work dribbling the ball for like 10, 15, 20 seconds. I think that was a problem with Thomas making his career. He would dribble the ball out a lot and try to get off late, erratic shots that weren't dropping for him. And I think he's gotten away from that, thankfully, and his offense is more efficient. So we can experiment maybe in a 2-minute scenario, but the way Jordy's running the system, he doesn't feel Thomas has to be the 1 anymore, just be the 2. But that could all change this summer depending on if we draft a point guard. If we don't draft a point guard, maybe he converts Thomas into a 1. But right now he's the 2, and I think it's great for Thomas. You're seeing a lot more balance in Thomas's game at the 2 because his responsibility level is not as high as it would be if he was a point guard. He'd be very gassed out if he was a point guard on this team, Gary, having to play make for an offensive team that has almost no offense. So I think being the 2 might be Cam Thomas's future right now. I think it's better for him long-term wise because at the 1, he'd have a lot more responsibility and he would get cooked a lot more. So I think being the 2 might have saved Cam Thomas's career and might be the reason he gets a decent bump in his contract this summer.
I want to move to another offseason Nets move the Nets made, the Bridges trade. John, we're 60 games in. How is that trade looking?
It's looking so horrible for the Knicks, and it's looking so great for us. I mean, listen, somebody wrote a tweet last night. Mikal Bridges scored 6 points, and this guy said, for every 1 point, that was a first-round draft pick sent to us. Thank you, Jalen Brunson, Captain El Capitan Brunson. Like, seriously, man, the Knicks are in trouble, man. The Jalen Brunson injury, man, means something. The guy saw it last night. A heart's definitely dropped. You don't want a player of that caliber get injured like that, but the way his ankle bent, man, that was so nasty, and the Knicks are now in a very tough bind. They have 20 games left, and they have the toughest remaining schedule. That pick that we have could potentially fall and be valuable to us. The Knicks have just been through the grind all season. Coach Tibbs, man, that guy's like a military sergeant lieutenant, man. If you ain't playing 40 minutes a game, you're doing something wrong in his eyes. And now you don't have Brunson. What are you going to do? Bridges has shown you he's the king of cardio. That's about it. And he's giving you 2 6-point performances against some of the best teams. This year, against the top teams, the top 4 teams, they are 0-7. Bridges is average, I think, around 2 to 7 points a game against those top teams. And that's not what they brought him for. They brought Bridges to play elite defense. And against the top teams, it was like a G Leaguer out there. Like, it's insane. The one area that they got him for is the one area he's letting them down in. And the Knicks have nobody to blame but themselves and Jalen Brunson, who wanted it. Unfortunately, he wanted the Villanova boys reunion tour, and we did that. We gave them the gift of friendship, and in return, we got their future. So great business for us, bad business for them.
I want to address one other thing. Shout out to Mitchell Robinson, who apparently hit a pair of free throws. I didn't see the game yesterday.
Whoa.
Mitchell Robinson went to the line and sang 2 of 2. Shout out Mitchell Robinson. Well done, Mitch.
Hey,
Well
listen,
done,
Gary, they said Robinson's going to save the season. So, Mitchell, give me those free throws, buddy.
Look at
That's going to save the season.
I don't mind guys playing more minutes. I don't. But look, 43, 44, 42, 41, 44. That's too many minutes, guys. That's too many minutes.
This is what happened. Gary, this is what happens when you have a coach who still thinks he's in the 90s. I mean, it used to work in the 90s, but you're now in the 21st century, and you got to think about playoffs, play-in scenarios. And this team right now, they've been relying on Towns and Brunson for most of the season to carry them. And Bridges has done a lot of minutes, but he's giving you almost nothing. So 3 of your best players are just not going to get through this without some type of injury. Unfortunately, Brunson suffered a gnarly, unfortunate injury. Now you have to rely on Towns, Bridges, and maybe OG Anunoby. And OG Anunoby against the best teams this year, his numbers have been very crappy. He's making $40 million. If that guy gets injured, that is a Ben Simmons contract that is going to handicap the Knicks if they don't right the ship. But they really can't right the ship. Bridges has a contract extension coming up this summer, and his numbers against the best teams on the defensive end have been atrocious. So if the Knicks pay Bridges this summer, what options do they have to improve their bench? Their bench is like invisible. So I don't know how the Knicks are going to write this, but man, was it really worth it to cash in 7 picks for Towns and Bridges this summer when you could have waited for a Giannis or a Ja Morant or somebody that's a lot better to pair with Brunson? You'll never know. But the good thing that we know is we got their picks. So good job, Brooklyn, man. Finally a trade that went our way.
D'Lo is not going to go to the Shanghai show. He's not about to be out of the league. He's going to be in the NBA next year. The only question is there a team he can start on? He's not out of the league. And King Ribby wants you to know that you're a homer, bro.
Ribby, what happened last night, man, against the Lakers? No, how happened against OKC, against Boston, man? Ribby, you said they were going to dominate. They're not dominating anything right now. 0-7, Ribby. 0-7. Me and Gary could have got that team to at least 1-7. 0-7, man. Come on. Bridges has been atrocious. Look at his numbers. He scored 2 points against Boston about 2 weeks ago. That is not cutting the mustard, my guy.
You can see, look, King and every Knicks fan, Nate, you want to apologize now for saying to me that the Nets didn't fleece the Knicks? Like, you want to apologize? They got 6 first-round picks for this. Like, I don't even hate Bridges. I like Bridges. Like, I don't understand why he trashed the team on his way out. The same way I don't understand why Doe did. But I like Bridges. He was good for us. 6 first-round picks for this. That's insane. That's literally a crime in Italy. If you do that in Italy, you go to jail for theft. Like, that's how bad that is. You guys want to apologize now and say, you know what? On second thought, after careful reconsideration, yeah, that was a ridiculous trade the Knicks made. Do you want to admit that? I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to hold it against you. It happens. That was an insane trade. If you put Bridges, if the Knicks put Bridges on the trade market right now, how many first-round picks do you think they could get for him?
Forget first-round picks. How about 4 seconds and you call it a day? Like he's not worth a first-round pick right now.
2 first-round picks for him. You traded 2 picks for him. So it is what it is. But Bridges, 6 points. That's 1 point for every first-round pick he was traded for. If you're a Knicks fan, last year I thought you were the second best team in the East. Cleveland is shocking everyone right now, even though they shouldn't be. Like, we all knew Cleveland was good, but we didn't know they were this good. Kenny's got them really playing. So if you're the Knicks, you trade around 6 first-round picks for a role player, and now you're not going to get out of the second round of the playoffs. What are your thoughts, Ryan? And I don't even hate the Knicks. I think the Knicks are a top 5 team in the NBA. Unfortunately, the 2 teams that beat you every time they play you, you're going to have to go through both of them to get to the finals. You're going to have to get through at least one of them. You're going to have to get through Boston to get to the conference finals to then go play Cleveland. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, and forget that if they somehow lose this last stretch 20 games, they would have to go through the Cavs and then face Boston. No matter how you look at it, the Knicks have probably the toughest playoff road right now, and you might face Detroit in the first round. Detroit, they're killing it this season. I mean, they're more grittier than the Knicks are defensively. They've kind of embodied the culture that this Knicks team was supposed to embody when they got OG and Bridges. And those are supposed to be the two lock and chain guys this year. They have been getting cooked, overcooked, and overburnt by these top teams in the league. So the two guys you brought in to be your defensive anchors are definitely being your anchors just for all the wrong reasons. So the Knicks definitely have a lot that's going wrong for them, but not having that defensive identity. They don't have a grit. You look at them in the season, they don't play gritty defense. Maybe Josh Hart, he's probably been the grittiest guy, but Josh Hart, if he's the only defensive guy, you're in trouble. Like it's that simple, and I'm glad that this is working out for Brooklyn. Those picks, they're probably not going to amount to lottery picks, but man, those could be some very good trade chips for us in a year or two if the Knicks can't right the ship this year and next year. But the clock is a ticking, and we got your assets. So either Brunson finds a way to come back in this last stretch, or the Knicks are going to have to accept the fact that it just ain't working out for him. And Bridges has been a huge catalyst for why it's not working out. He does not look like a New York player. I mean, Bridges, yeah, he scores a few points, does the finger wave, but other than that, man, Bridges is not a New York type player. Couldn't handle it on the Brooklyn Nets team, and he for sure can't handle it in Madison Square Garden. He is just getting cooked right now.
I want to address two comments in this. King Ribby says, "So put your money where your mouth is." Pause. I got 500. I put a bet on the Knicks. I'm not a Knicks hater. I'm not like John. I'm not a Knicks hater. I'm not like Leave. I'm not a Knicks hater. I'm a Nets fan, but I don't hate the Knicks. I put money. I got the Knicks at plus 400 to win the East in the offseason, and I took it because I thought the odds were good. I don't hate the Knicks. So if you want to bet $500, what, the Knicks win the East? Okay. Yeah, I'll make that bet. I'll take your money, Rib. You want to bet $500 that the Knicks win the East? Yeah.
Gary, you know what the funny thing is? There is no money to be bet here. We talk facts on this show, Ribby. We don't waste Monopoly money. And here's the thing. 6 first-round picks, Ribby. 6 first-round picks for a below role player. Midkel. His name is not Mikel. It's Midkel Bridges. And that cooked your season before it even started. Don't need to bet no money. This team was cooked before they made that deal. Ribby, at the end of the day, it's simple math. Bridges, what is 6 plus 0? 6 points. 6 first-round draft picks. Man, it's great doing business with the Knicks, man. I mean, they said they want to be the team to run the city. Well, you're running the city just into the ground. So
I just want to know what Knicks fans think they got when they got Bridges. Like, what did you think you got in them? Like, if I said, explain to me how he makes your team a championship team. How does he put you past Boston? How does I don't understand what you think you got in them, right? Like I always did this with like another podcast who talks up Cam Johnson. Okay, Cam Johnson is a guy that's so up the Sharman who runs 3-point line to 3-point line. He can shoot. He can stretch the court. He can play the 4. I guess not really. I think it's horrible when they do that, right? But what do you get in Cam Johnson for $25 million a year? And the answer is, well, not a whole lot, right? What are you getting in Bridges for 6 first-round picks? Like, what do you think he's going to do? He's a lockdown defender. He's one of the best defenders in the league, right? I mean, he's a good defensive player, and he can he guard lightning quick? Can he guard John Morant?
Not even on his.
He can't guard those super fast guys. He can't.
You know what the problem is? I think some people thought Bridges, and I think some of the Nets guys, I did when Bridges was playing well, it seemed that he could be maybe a Drew Holiday-esque third option for this team, but he's nowhere near the level of a Drew Holiday. Offensively, he's very inconsistent, and defensively, way inconsistent. So that comp is dead in the water right now. I don't even know what's compared Bridges to. I think there's some guys that are making G League money that will play better than Bridges can on a night-to-night basis right now. Let's look at Bridges and Johnson. They came in as the twins, right? Non-biological twins. They are con jobs. Midkel and Scam Johnson, their numbers can't even go up against some of the guys that were drafted 10 or 11 in certain drafts because they're just role players at this point in the career. I mean, Cam Johnson, before he had these 3 great months, he was averaging 13 points as a former lottery pick in like the top 10 or 11. Bridges, he was picked, 7 by Philly and then traded? He has not averaged anywhere close to numbers he was averaging in 27 games for Brooklyn. Both these guys are con job players. They show you some good runs, but to carry a team for 3 to 4 years, these guys can't hold a mantle to certain players that can do that. And that's the NBA's fault for valuing them so damn high. But guess what? It worked out in our favor. 27 games for 6 first-round picks. I'll take that any day of the week. any day of the week. So Brooklyn definitely won that trade. And I hope once we get rid of Johnson, this twin era could be long and gone out of our memory banks. But Knicks fans will definitely remember the Mikal Bridges debacle, that's for sure.
They're gonna remember it till 2031. It's gonna be on their mind, right? When they're back draft in top 10, and we have their lottery pick because you got Mikal Bridges.
Facts.
All right, guys. All right, like be careful what you wish for. Is Mid-Cal getting you over the hump? Are you now better than Boston? Are you guys gonna beat Boston? Look, Lou said if Detroit knocks out the Knicks in the first round, I don't even hate the Knicks. My dad, who I love dearly, is a massive Knicks fan. He goes back like the Dick McGuire days, before Clyde Frazier. And, he's getting old and his health's not great. I'd like to see him get one more ring for the Knicks. He's a huge Knicks fan. But, can we be honest? The Knicks ain't winning a championship. And if they got knocked out by Detroit in the first round, I'm going to smile a little bit. I am.
Oh, and the biggest problem is they definitely have talent. I'm not going to lie and say they don't have talent, but Coach Thibs is a 90s-style military coach. He expects you to play 40 minutes a night, but you need to load manage your best teams. Look what Boston did tonight. They load managed. Half their team had Tatum out there against another team that was low matching, and Tatum crushed them. You have to be able to do that. The Knicks can't do that at all this season. Brunson and Towns have played almost every game, and this is part of the season where you're supposed to load manage guys. Now that Brunson's out, Towns have to play the last 20 games to keep them afloat. And by the time that happens, you're in the playoffs. If you can't effectively load manage your team in this era of basketball, you're just going to be cooked by the time you get into the playoffs. And that works in teams like Detroit. Detroit's a way younger team than the Knicks are. And if they upset them, you have to look back at the coach ran his players into the ground and the stars carried too much of a burden. But that's their problem, not ours. So I definitely think there's a chance that if the Knicks come into the playoffs gassed out and the Pistons are their first round opponent, there could be potential upset or at the worst, a game 5 or 6 in that series. So at the end of the day, I feel great. We're in the position that we have the popcorn and we're just watching this ship go down, down, down. So let's just keep seeing what happens there.
All right, the last thing I want to get to is tank and off-season related. John, you sent me this. Nets Kingdom, our boy, posted this. ESPN, Bobby Marks, and NBA insiders proposed a KD trade involving the Brooklyn Nets. The Heat get KD. The Suns get Jovic, Wiggins at 25-1, a 2031, a 2026-2. The Nets get Duncan Robinson's contract, Keyshawn Johnson, a 2029 first-round swap, a 2031 first-round swap, and a 2031-2. So the Nets would get Duncan Robinson's contract, Johnson, and 2 future 1s and a 2. And they don't really give up anything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this works for us. We're just taking on a contract. It works for the Suns, obviously. I think it works for the Suns. Do the Heat want Kevin Durant? Right. This is what was interesting to me because even if the Heat get Kevin Durant, he's showing you on Brooklyn getting swept by the Celtics, and he's showing you on the Suns that just having Kevin Durant makes you a first-round exit. That's all it does. So my question is, I think this trade works for the other 2 teams. Why do the Heat want Kevin Durant?
That's a very interesting question. If you remember when KD won out of Brooklyn, who were his top 2 teams? The Suns and Miami. He went to the Suns, and before he wavered off that trade to the Golden State Warriors, Miami Heat definitely had a level of interest in reuniting with KD. So I definitely will say that the Miami Heat will be one of the teams that will be vying for Kevin Durant this offseason. You look at Miami's season; it's really gone off the rails. The Butler drama, Hero's kind of broken out. Bam's done what he's done, but the depth around them, a lot of young guys that aren't really developing like how Eric Spoelstra usually develops talent. So they're definitely at a crossroads. Do they just embrace the youth movement, but risk making Bam Adebayo, their captain, unhappy where he has to rebuild as in the prime of his career? Probably not. So you get a Kevin Durant with a Bam Adebayo and Hero is your third option on a team. It's not a worst case scenario, but it definitely would be a short term thing, right? Kevin Durant's 37. How long would he play with Miami? Maybe 2 to 3 years, 2 years, something like that. It would be a long term window. So for us, like Brooklyn, this is a great way to use our cap space because this summer free agency, it's as dry as the Sahara Desert. How can we utilize the cap space to our advantage? We can absorb contracts. Duncan Robinson's only on a $20 million expiring contract. We get 2 first-round picks on top of it. I know they're protected, but hey, first-round draft capital added to our bank that we could potentially use in a trade deal down the line. I'll take it. And get a second-round pick for your Qualms. Like, this is a good deal for Brooklyn. We don't give anything up. We take on an expiring contract that gives us more cap space for 2026 free agency, which looks a lot better than this year's free agency. So this really works out for Brooklyn. It allows us to use the cap space strategically. We get expiring contract that maybe could be flipped. Remember, Duncan Robinson is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. Maybe there's a team that needs three-point shooting. We can flip them the following year. Like, there's definitely many outlets here with making this deal, and it works in our favor. We're the third facilitating team, and we get some good draft capital out of it. So I definitely like this deal for Brooklyn. It's a smart use of the cap space, whereas we don't have to like sign a Jonathan Kuminga to a crazy deal that's probably going to get taken back by the Warriors. So I think it's a good, smart deal for Brooklyn. It allows us to plan ahead and be well prepared for 2026 free agency as well.
Yeah, we don't give anything up. The only thing we're doing is taking on a terrible salary, right? But if we can move Claxton, we can get off a terrible salary. Again, we've talked about there's one team that we can send him to, right? There's one team we can send Claxton to. If we can, and how much is left? Duncan Robinson's contract it's not that bad anymore because all right, so for his contract, he's getting 20. Oh God, he is getting $20 million next year. All right, let me. All right, so people's wanting. I let people in. People wants to cook you. I'm gonna give him a chance. One second, people. I just want to. Before
Gary,
you try to
good?
cook John,
What's good?
What's up, people?
What's up, Bernardus?
John, I still probably make this trade because it's 1 year left. $20 million for Duncan Robinson next year, who's basically a useless person. You still want to do this? I know it was like 13 or 15. It's 20.
You know why? Let's say we do trade Claxton to the Lakers. When we do this deal, we get extra draft capital on top of what we probably get for Claxton with draft capital, even if it's second-round picks. I don't care at that point. But getting Duncan Robinson's contract, it sets you up for 2026 free agency, which looks a lot better. That $20 million is added cap space for us, so it's not a bad deal at all. We want to make big moves, Gary. I know you do. So this move definitely helps prepare us for that, and it's a smart use of the cap space, because if we just re-sign Thomas, re-sign Zaire and Dayron and these draft prospects, it's not an effective use of all your cap space. Whereas with this, we absorb a bad contract, comes off the books, that helps us, and we get draft capital on top of it. It's a great use of our cap space, and I hope Sean Marks and Joe Tsai are thinking about moves like that, because if they're what we lack on free agency market, right? Free agency is a bust right now. The trade market, we should be the number one team. Everybody's calling to be that third team on the phone to facilitate because we have the cap space. So this could be advantageous for us going into the summer as far as being a facilitator goes.
Jamal makes a good point. I want your thoughts on this. And people, you give me your thoughts and then tell me what's on your mind, peoples. Jamal says we don't want no protections anymore on the picks. Yeah, if I'm taking on this contract is egregious. This is also a crime in Italy. If this happened in Italy, Duncan Robinson would go to jail for theft. Okay, $20 million for Duncan Robinson, who's a useless person, is 100 times worse contract than Cam Johnson.
That's $20 million. That's crazy.
If I'm taking this contract, no protection. Is that fair?
Imagine we just take that 1 year salary, John, Gary. That's it. We never come back to America, boy. $20 million, man. What does he do? I never see Robinson. I never see him on the court. Never. He
takes 5 threes a game and misses 3 of them, and then everyone loves him. Yeah, he does nothing. He's a useless person.
I think I don't know. I think his system is probably the wrong system. I think you gotta have different players. Like he come off the screen way too much. You know,
the Long Island Nets. The Long Island Nets have a more fitting scheme for him. Let's send him to the Long Island. He'd do better there.
Right, but George,
I never got Duncan. I never understood Duncan Robinson. Like not for 1 minute thought he was any good at all.
I guess the shooting. He's like a old boy. What's his name? Play for the fucking Hicks too, man. What's his name? You know that white guy, man. You know,
currently on the
bench.
team.
Off the like like recently, like 2012.
Evan Fournier.
No. Like a. He's like a white dude. I forgot his name, yo. Oh my god, I forgot
Fournier
his name. All
was a
he
white
did is
dude.
make shoot threes. All that's all. That's the only thing he ever did. Y'all
Steve
probably know
Novak.
what that is. Yes,
Steve Novak.
yes,
Yeah, Duncan
yeah.
Robinson's not much different than Steve Novak. He's basically a useless person. No,
Used to
Dante
that's like the.
DiVincenzo was a guys. Dante DiVincenzo is 5,000, and I'm not even a DiVincenzo fan. He's 5,000 times better than Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson
Hell
is
yeah.
useless. First of all,
Even
Devo is a
though
better
even
shooter
though
than
he's not
Duncan
that great
Robinson.
too.
Yeah, but Gary, don't you
He's not that
believe
great.
Jordy can reclaim some of Duncan Robinson's uselessness and make him a useful player? Maybe it could work out in our favor a little. Maybe we could flip him for second round picks at the deadline. He is a 3-point shooter. You know, the 3-point shooter is a big thing now in the NBA. Maybe Jordy could rediscover something with Duncan Robinson. But I
Hang
really
on,
don't care about
hang
the
on. No.
contract.
I'm willing to make this trade. I'm still probably going to make the trade, right? Because it's just 1 year and that's off the books. I
Yeah,
want the protections off. Okay, if this contract is disgusting. It's grotesque. If I'm taking this contract so that you can get Kevin Durant, you can take those protections off. That's one. Two is John. I'm being serious. To play backup 3, you have 2 choices. To play 20 minutes a game off the bench as the backup 3.
Gotta play defense though. Yeah.
Zaire or Duncan Robinson. Who's your backup 3?
probably Zaire because he plays more
No,
defense.
not probably Zaire. 100% Zaire. So
Hell
Duncan
yeah.
Robinson is your third string small forward, which means he barely has a roster spot, John, for $20
Gary,
million.
I don't care if Duncan can't guard a garbage can. As long as if we're trying to aim for next year's draft, Duncan Robinson helps us with that with his bad numbers. But at the end of the day, he's expiring contract helps with cap space, free agency. And I'll give you this: maybe in this deal, if we rework it, maybe the Nets give away some second round draft picks to remove the protections off of one of those 2 picks. We get the potential off one of those 2 picks. Maybe it's a better deal for Brooklyn. But the Nets probably have to give up some assets of their own in this deal to remove the protections off that pick.
Is
So
is
maybe
that
there's some
John?
negotiation
Is that
there.
for Cam J? Are you trying to do? Yeah, because all we have to do is get rid of 2 motherfuckers, man. Excuse my language. Clankster and Cam Johnson, and we can start a clean slate. I feel like we can
Yeah,
start over.
Mm.
agreed.
We got to get those 2 guys out, man. Because we look. You guys watch the games too. You guys been, you've been watching it. Even with the Suns, Cam Johnson or Claxton. Even though he made a little bit of improvements, but that's the highest ceiling. Yesterday against the Dubs. What's that white boy, the rookie? He trying to go like he trying to go inside. He just clanked that shit up. He's a rookie, man. He bodied him up because he got a little girth. I mean, he don't even Claxton don't have that girth, and the rookie got it. Come on, man.
He got
You seen it?
embarrassed
Did you
by
see it when he
Bismarck.
had the ball and then he decided to go I guess like a semi-fast break and he just threw it up and he clanked that shit and then he had that look like, oh, come on, man. He had to look himself. Like he had to look like, oh shit, this is bad. Come on, man. Like this is not this is the ceiling. This is the ceiling. It's just the pick and roll dunks. I mean,
Well,
yeah, but blocking shots, but right after blocking the shot, maybe making a dumb play. Y'all seen it before. He makes his dumb
Hernandez,
play right
you're
away,
right though,
or,
Hernandez. We
or
have to
give
get
up
rid of.
that rebound. Like right,
Yeah.
right, John. When you block the shot, you give up that rebound, and we have a putback, or
Did
they
you
have a
see
putback.
Gary
I've
Payton
been
get a
watching all
rebound
that
over
shit,
Claxton
Gary.
last
Like
night? Wait, Hernandez, did you see?
overrated.
Did you see Gary
Claxton's
Payton get
not
a
a good
rebound over
rebounder. Yeah,
Claxton?
Claxton is
That was
7 foot
crazy.
tall and long, but
What did
Claxton's
I see?
not a good
What
rebounder.
was it, John? Did I see what?
No, there was a replay last night. Gary Payton
Yeah,
the
I
second
know
actually got
exactly
a
what you're talking about.
rebound over Claxton, which was wild.
Oh
That
yeah,
was wild. But
and you seen him when he drove to the you about to dunk on him, you still got the layup. You seen it? You seen it right with Gary Payton about to dunk on Claxton, but he still made an adjustment and laid that shit up. I feel like his defense is overrated, man. Yeah, he's good when somebody's driving to the hoop and he come out of the blind side and get the block. Yeah, yeah, I
Hernandez,
give him that. I give him that, but
you're
I don't
you're
know.
right.
He
You're
don't he
right
don't really
though that.
block shots like like when somebody
Mhm.
posts up, right, John? You know what I'm talking about, like back in the
Yeah,
days When somebody
No, listen,
posts up, you
you're
get a
right
like
that
2 blocks on
Claxton
the wall like
Johnson.
Tim Duncan or some shit.
Yeah,
He can't
listen,
do
you're
that.
right. You're right that Claxton Johnson needs to get traded this summer. I mean, Garrett,
Hell
come
yeah.
to hypotheticals. Lakers for Claxton, trade Johnson on draft night to the Spurs or OKC to move up. It's easy peasy. And then if we do this deal to get Duncan Robinson, listen, guys, he's not a great player, right? Defensively gives you nothing.
We
Offensively gives
take
you
that
one or
Spurs
two
lottery
threes.
pick.
It works for 2026 draft. Some of you guys aren't thinking about the 2026 draft. This deal, the hypothetical proposed by Bobby Marks, would position us well for the 2026 draft. That would be a good strategic move for Brooklyn and to utilize the cap space to our benefit. If you guys aren't thinking about that, then what are we doing with this team right now? This current iteration with Claxton Johnson, to Gary's point, making $40 million is not going to make us better
It's
anytime
not gonna
soon.
get. It's
Getting
not
off
gonna
their
go. It's not
contracts
gonna get us
makes you
Let
a
me
lot
anywhere.
let,
better
let,
in the
let me
near
bring
future.
Scott
It's
in.
not
Scott,
gonna
I
get
got
us
Scott
anywhere.
too. I want to hear from Scott. Scott, I gotta wrap this up in
Hey,
about
what's
10
up, guys?
minutes, but I love
Hey,
you, Scott.
Scott.
I love your takes. What's on your mind? What do you want to get? What do you want to weigh in on?
I think that deal, like John was saying, would work.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will work because 2026 draft, we can get another draft pick, and that will work for us. Maybe the Basta or somebody.
Or
We
like
don't know
or
where it would
Peterson
land,
or
but it
one of
would give
those
us
top
a
six
little
guys.
more flexibility, you know. Plus, some money come off the books the year after, so that'll work.
It works, and I agree. Like it works. I'm still gonna make the trade, right? But like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you push back if you're the Nets and say Miami, you take the protections off the pick? Like this contract is disgusting. If you want me to take this, and I will, you're gonna remove the protections.
Yeah, you're right, Gary. That's just what I would I would be pushing for that. That protection, take the protection off, and I'll even throw in something else. I don't know.
Give me Claxton. You want Claxton?
Yeah,
You can have somebody else.
question. Quick question for everybody. Would you guys rather draft all these 5 guys, 4 first rounders, and that 36th pick, or would you rather trade John Scott? Would you rather trade those late to like just late two because we got 3 of those. We got 3 late ones.
Yeah, the second
Probably after
rounders.
20. Like
Yeah.
two, not 3 of them. 2 of them
I'm
like for like a top 10, not 14, not the
I
14th
don't know
lottery,
about
but like
top
top 10.
10. I don't know about top 10 in this, but maybe top 11 and 14, that bracket, there could be some room to move. Let's say the Spurs or OKC, two teams who are very competitive, want to be playoff teams, they get a top pick everybody wants. If there's a vet, a team like
And they
Brooklyn
got
has
no
or
money
another
now,
team
right?
has,
They gotta
maybe we could
spend
trade
mad money for them.
trade up with them. So like there's a possibility there. But Scott and Ice made some valid points. If there's a guy in that 20 bracket that's a diamond in the rough that fits your system, you should explore that till it's full singularity before you make that move. But I'm definitely open to moving up in this draft. I think we have the power to do it. We have 31
Hell yeah.
picks to operate with. If
But
we can't
only
move up
two
in this
though, right,
draft,
John?
yeah, if
Only two.
we can't move in this draft, that means Sean Marks isn't getting creative enough. And if there's a guy out there you really want to move up for, you should take it. But Scott's
Take the
definitely going to
shot.
counteract with something like that, right, Scott?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if you got
I agree.
if you end up with the 22nd, 26th, and 26th and 27, you're willing to give it up, right?
Depends
For the
on who's
lottery pick?
available. Depends on the
It
prospect that's
depends.
available. If you're
Yeah.
talking if you're talking Jeremiah Fears or Derek Queen, absolutely.
Yeah. I would rather because
that's the only
36th
way.
we don't have a
Yeah.
like a really really low pick. It's not bad. 36 is like after 5 picks in the second round that you can get something too for that
Yeah.
36 pick.
Hey,
It's not like
Gary,
the 50s,
hey,
It's not
Gary,
like
could you
it's
put
not
up
like Jalen
Jamal's
Wilson.
comment real quick, Gary? He was talking about the Claxton debate. Can you tell him what Bismarck Biombo did against Claxton the other night, Gary? Please.
Oh my God.
I love
Bismack
what you had
Biyombo.
to say. And I got to wrap, but I love what you had to say earlier, Jamal. But Nick Claxton got bullied and big boy by Bismarck Biombo, who's 5,000 years old, hasn't been a productive NBA player in years. And Bismarck ate his lunch, breakfast, dinner, and snacks. And he dominated him and looked like friggin' prime Robert Parrish on him. Like, it was ridiculous what Bismarck Biombo was doing to Nick Claxton. And Nick Claxton played well yesterday. I give him his flowers for what he did yesterday. But, like, if you have any girth, if you have any physicality, you dominate Nick Claxton. Nick Claxton can't hold you. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you get dominated by Bismarck Biombo, there's a problem.
And you
Seriously.
can get him in foul trouble too if you do a couple of pump fakes. You know, you fall
And he
for
wasn't
that.
on a team this year. How can a guy that wasn't on his team till 2 weeks ago physically out dominates you? That just rarely happens. Claxton's
Well,
played most of the season and he got crushed by the guy. That's when you got to go off
John,
his contract this
he
summer.
showed him that whatever country he's from Africa, you showed him the African strength. He was like, yeah, he was like, you're American. I'm gonna show you.
No, you know what it
That's
was?
what he probably
Bismarck was
said. He from
no, you know
Georgia.
what it was? Bismarck was like Rocky from Rocky 6, comes out of retirement to face the young heavyweight champion, and he goes toe to toe with him and nearly beats his ass. That's what it was. But Bismarck definitely won that battle the whole night, and that was scary.
Or like the one of those old Rockies, you know, the one of the new ones. When you remember the son came to fight him, or somebody, his own son. Was that his own son? No,
What about the
one
sequel
of
of Creed 2, right? You talk about the sequel of Creed 2, right?
no, not the Creed. No, you remember the with Stallone when you remember? Didn't he fight one of his enemies' sons or something? You remember when he came? When he came, he was like, "You got to teach me." You seen that? What was that? Was that from like
Oh, you're talking about
2009 or
Rocky.
10?
You talking about? I think you're talking about Rocky 5 when
The
he
white
has to
guy, yeah,
retire
you
due
remember the
to
white guy?
injuries.
He was like,
The
you
young up
gotta
and
teach me.
comer,
At the
yeah.
end,
Yeah,
they fight in the
Tommy
street.
Morrison, Tommy
They
Gunn.
fight in like
Yeah.
a
Ooh,
yeah,
yes, Claxton
yeah.
is Tommy Morrison and Rock. Oh, that's
Oh
even
yeah,
better than
Tom.
what I
Yeah,
made.
that's
Yeah,
isn't that the guy from the
that's
Gladiator?
crazy.
John, you guys ever seen Gladiator with Cuba Gooding Jr. and the white boy when they fight? You ever seen that movie?
No,
When
that's
he
wild.
Let
I
me
have a
let,
feeling.
when they
let
do the
me one
bare
thing,
knuckle
Jamal.
boxing, that shit was
I don't
dope.
I don't hate Claxton. I don't hate Claxton.
Me neither.
Right? But like he hasn't improved. Like he is what he is, and he's overpaid. If we can get rid of him, get rid of him. Like I don't hate Nick Claxton. You know, he's not Keith Van Horn to me, who I couldn't stand. Right? Like Claxton, he's got a skill set. He's a great switch defender. You're paying him $27 million a year to have a limited role as a defender on the perimeter, and he can't guard guys in the paint. You know what I'm saying?
He's a bench player. Yeah,
that's what he is. And if you can
Making
get rid of him,
$27 million.
I know.
That's insane, man.
I know. It's a lot.
And that goes to Sean Marks. This guy does not know how to dispense money. He gives some of the worst contracts I've ever seen away. He gave Patty Mills a bigger deal than Bruce Brown.
All right, guys, I gotta wrap this up, guys. I gotta close this out. Scott Peoples, thanks for joining me.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you,
guys. A lot of fun
John,
talking
nice
with
show.
you guys.
When's the next game? There's no game today. Tomorrow.
Is it
Yeah,
against
we face
Hornets?
the Hornets. So if you want to do
Hornets.
something Sunday afternoon, maybe.
You're gonna see LaMelo Ball doing like a useless cardio too. I mean, he's gonna put up points, but it's gonna be useless.
Is he playing? Is LaMelo back? Is LaMelo back yet, or no?
I don't know. Is he? I don't even know because
I don't know
nobody
who's
watches the
keeping
Hornets.
up. Yeah, who's
Nobody
keeping
cares.
up?
Who's keeping up with the Hornets?
Nobody keep up with the Hornets, man. But they could probably get a win.
LaMelo Ball will play tonight against the Cavs, so I don't. He probably will.
Oh, it's a back-to-back.
So he probably will play against the Nets.
Great.
That
means Claxton and Dayron are gonna have career nights tomorrow. Watch this. A 2020 ball apiece.
And don't be surprised. What's his name? The guy who got rejected with that Lakers trade. Don't be surprised if he put up some points on Claxton. You know what's his name? Williams. He's probably gonna do good. He's probably gonna do okay against them. Watch.
He'll probably big boy him. He'll probably bully him. He'll probably
even though he's
all right,
kind of
guys.
skinny.
I got it, guys.
All right, guys.
Fun show, guys.
I appreciate you,
All right,
Scott.
John.
Later, guys.
John Peoples. March 7th, 2025, from Texas to the world. Thank you and God bless.
Peace.
Okay.